in 2014. I found myself wanting to get back on stage. I hadn't been on stage in a long time, and there wasn't really anything local. And I just happened to be chatting with a coworker, and he's like, well, why don't you just start a community theater? And I thought that was the most ridiculous idea ever. But at the same time, Tucker was really coming together as a community. And so I just popped it on Facebook and said, do you think Tucker could support a community theater? And it was fast and overwhelming. Everybody said yes. Somebody asked about a meeting. I was not prepared for that. I didn't want to start a theater. So I was like, all right, well, I guess we're going to do this. And so we planned a little get together, just a committee meeting to see, interest meeting to see, you know, if anybody, who would show up, right?
The first meeting was at the barbecue place over on Hugh Howell. And it was in a big room, and there were about, 25 people there.
Some people on Facebook were talking about putting together a theater company. I got looped into what turned out to be the second organizational meeting of what became Main Street Theater. At the third or fourth meeting, Sabrina Chambers said, okay, I can't do this all by myself. I need a board with me.
And all of us became founding board members. Pretty much all of those people, that's last group.
So I kind of went in there with one goal in mind, and that was just, can we do one show in 1 year? And luckily enough, we had somebody who actually had musical theater experience and a degree on the board, and that's Merle Westbrook.
We all discussed and came up with the name Main Street Theater, and suddenly in about 2 months, we had a theater company that soon got organized as a 501c3, and we were off and running.
First thing we needed is, where are we going to produce this show, right? Tucker does not have a theater. At the time, the director of the rec center was overwhelmingly supportive and said you can use the space for free.
We had play reading meetings with anybody who wanted to participate at Ray Ganga's house, and we reviewed a number of scripts and options and so on. We wanted something very upbeat and a comedy, just something that was well known, that would bring people to us.
Harvey is a classic, and it's a really good story, and it's heartwarming. And so we said, okay, let's do it. And we didn't know how many people were going to show up for auditions. Ended up not a lot showed up for auditions, so the board ended up being in the show while we were trying to create a whole theater at the same time.
I didn't go to the audition intending to audition, and I went to just help out with the processing of the audition. Just totally on a whim, I thought, I think I'll go down there and read, just for the heck of it. I did. A couple of days later, the director called me and offered me the role of Sanderson, and basically no one had showed up for auditions because we were so new. Nobody had heard of Main Street Theater.
Whether you want to call it Providence or the Lord works in mysterious ways, but that first production for Main Street Theater was smiled upon when Bob Winstead accepted the role of Elwood Dowd. He was amazing.
I personally had just had experience stage managing it a year before, so in my head, I remembered all the stuff that you needed as far as the stage managing perspective.
I had done play acting in high school and in church and in college, all the way through, and hadn't done any in quite a while. It was the first production. Everything was going to be new. If you were there and willing to show up and willing to work, you were going to be part of it all.
It was a rough rehearsal period, and we were all learning and flying by the seat of our pants. Big scene changes and some bubbles and things.
There were several times when I said to people, the only person talking is the actor or the director. I mean, everybody was excited. They wanted to put their input into it. So the previous community theater that I had stage managed at, the director was an old guy who knew his stuff and had been directing for 40 years, and he would give the actors a speech. If they had not learned their lines, even if they had, he would give them the learn your bleep lines speech. So I said, okay, you guys, you gotta learn your lines or we're not gonna have a show. You're gonna embarrass yourselves and you're gonna embarrass us. And they did, and it was a good show.
We had a real challenge with the small stage. in that most of the shows are unit set. They're just one place, one room, this type of thing. In Harvey, we had to have both the Dowd house, the parlor, and we had to have the hospital. But we had some pretty creative solutions for trying to do something in such a small space.
So we had all these people just coming out, offering help, offering support. I love to tell this crazy story of a guy called Randy, showed up one day and said, if you can get all the materials, I'll go build the set for you. I work in the Alliance scene shop. He showed up with a van, drove it down to the Alliance scene shop. They built it and drove it back to Tucker, and then we never heard from him again.
Well, the biggest technical challenge was there just wasn't enough electricity on the stage. So that was a real challenge, to try to get enough light on the stage without blowing every breaker in the rec center.
I would have been either 18 or 19. Randy calls me and asks me what I'm doing over the next week and if I'm going to be able to help him with a show that I'd previously not been involved in or really heard anything about. I show up and just having to figure out everything out for the first time. How to hang stuff, where to get equipment from, and how to make it all work together.
When we took the cast and crew photo for Harvey, there was one person who could not be there, so we photoshopped him in. That was Wayne. You can see it if you look in the photo. You can see he's a little different. His lighting is a little different, but he's in there.
We had been out at several social events and tried to promote ourselves and sell tickets, but at the end of the day, we still really didn't know what to expect. I vividly remember we set up the auditorium to seat 50 people. I was hoping we would get 30. And we opened the doors, and the people just kept coming and coming and coming. They found and scrounged up every single chair that was at Tucker Rec. And we eventually seated 200 people that night. It almost brings me to tears now because it was just so totally unexpected, so mind-boggling.
What on earth do you suppose has happened to Elwood Dowd?
Have a seat, Harvey. Peter said you wanted to talk to us.
C-O-O-K-A. Lady, we have a swell time, and I always get a big tip.
Well, there doesn't seem to be a hat and coat here now. Perhaps he left.
He may be a peculiar man with funny clothes, but he knows how to act.
I wouldn't even want to live if I thought it was...
One of my sharpest memories was with Merle, and all of a sudden she screamed and fell into my arms.
That is not my mother!
I'm glad to hear that. And it's the first laugh I got in this show, and one of the best I got in all my career.
On opening night, we did the show, did curtain call, and we were walking off the stage, and Bob Winstead put his hand on my back and said, "You're an actor now." That just really, wow. You know, that was a real moment. I'll never forget that moment.
I don't remember what night it was, but you know, Randy and I had just been going at full tilt for the past week, and we're finally in the run of the show and we're able to sit down. And I think between the both of us, we probably both fell asleep at some point. And we're just keeping each other awake and focused on the script, and just working through the best of 1990s technology and trying to make it work.
Please sit down. Miss Kelly.
I had a line that was something like, Mr. Dowd, Nurse Kelly and I need to talk to you about something. And every single thing in my mind just went, phew. You know, I was standing there, I had no idea what I was supposed to say or do or anything. It was like a moment of terror. I think I tapped Sabrina on the shoulder and I said, "Nurse Kelly, remind Mr. Dowd what we need to talk to him." that. And she knew. So she kind of gave me a little prompt there, and it all came back, and everything was fine after that.
Everybody had the right attitude. I've lived a lot of places in the world, all over the world, and I've rarely lived in a place, in fact, perhaps never lived in a place where volunteers come out of the woodwork like they do here in Tucker. And it's so much fun to work with people like that.
Absolutely never imagined that we'd be doing this for 10 years. We would never dream of stopping.
We've built a whole community around the theater. Community theaters don't sell 150 seats for every show. That's not normal. We've been called a church. We've been called family. And that is the best compliment you can give to a nonprofit community organization. It is just a testament to the community, to Tucker community, and how close they are. And as long as the community keeps showing up, we'll keep doing it.